Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. A quote by Neil Gaiman, the author of Coraline. But what does it all mean? What makes something more than true? Robert Bly describes it in the title of his book, The Wisdom of Fairy Tales. And what it's come to mean is that fairy tales are more than just entertainment. They exist to teach us an important lesson, that dragons can be beaten. So let's start back from the beginning. Dragon myths exist across so many cultures. Long, wyvern, worm, kite, drake, sea serpents, all various forms of dragons. And for many people, including the Celts, dragons were something special. Who were the Celts? The first time the name Celt was recorded was by the ancient Greek geographer Hecatus of Miletus in 517 BCE. This referred to the people living near Messiah, southern France, and also in southern Gaul, which now includes the countries of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Germany, and Italy. The exact meaning and origin of the name Celts is highly speculated, with the most prominent one suggesting it meant children of the Hidden One, as many Gaulish Celts claim to be descendants of an underworld god. So this could be related to Cernunnos. Cernunnos? Right, Shane said it was Cernunnos. But again, much of this information is lost to time. Speaking of Celtic gods, though, we have dragons. In Celtic lore, dragons were said to be the creatures that transcended the parallel between the Fey world and the physical world. Druids taught that a dragon's power affected the lay of the land, and that wherever a dragon passed or rested became places of power for magic. This included two types of dragons in Celtic lore: sea serpents with giant wings and no legs, and the standard four-legged winged dragon that you see in Lord of the Rings, Dragonheart, Dungeons and Dragons, How to Train Your Dragon, did various other things. There was even a documentary that covered a sort of crypto-zoo extended universe and evolution of dragons that was really quite interesting. And this extended into the How to Train Your Dragon universe as well. Their crypto-zoo extended universe had a plethora of different kinds of dragons, but the Night Fury Toothless is mostly the kind of dragon we're talking about today. How to Train Your Dragon is, of course, heavily inspired by Nordic folklore, and that falls in line with who we called Gauls at this time. Celtic dragons of any kind were considered gatekeepers to other worlds, guardians of secrets, and keepers of treasures. Think of the dragon's hoards and piles of gold. They were often also depicted right alongside many Celtic gods as creatures that protected the earth and all living things. For instance, Dewi, the Welsh god, is prominently depicted with a great red serpent as his symbol, and this dragon is still seen today on the Welsh flag, and was even featured prominently on the helmet of King Arthur himself. Truly, dragons are seen as the most powerful of all Celtic fae. Depictions of dragons in Celtic art are symbols of immortality and the cyclical nature of the world, usually seen twisted upon itself like an Ouroboros, or famous Celtic knotwork that is still popular today in shirts, posters, and tattoos. The Celts didn't see dragons as the fire-breathing monsters ravaging village that many fantasy stories depict them as now. Instead, the phrase Path of the Dragon was used to describe druidic ley lines, stretches of mystical power that crossed the land. These sanctified places of harmony were highly sought after by druids and even defined how their early maps were created. People were often instructed by these early spiritual leaders to build their homes on these lines to harvest the energy dragons afforded to them. Though deadly and frightening, dragons represented a continuation of life and health. good harvest, and golden years and prosperity. Everything hummed and sparked with the lightning of the gods, and where there were dragons, this lightning was visible. It fell to the Druids to interpret these dragons and share their lessons with the Celts and harness their power for the greater good. With the arrival of Christianity, however, dragons were cast as symbols of trouble, strife, infertility, and famine. Well, the exact opposite of what they were before. This is where we see the stories begin to shift and portray dragons as monsters. Priests, rather than druids, interpreted the dragons as evil beings and denizens of the devil. Not to feed into the witch cult hypothesis, of course. The most prominent example of this type of dragon comes from the story of St. George and the Dragon, where the village of Wormingford in England offered maiden sacrifice to try and appease the dragon that was tormenting them. Eventually the village was left with no other choice but to offer their princess. But here's where the story differs. Some accounts say that St. George, passing by, saw the dragon and slew it. Other sources indicate he subdued the dragon, but in either case it was said that he became a protector of the village in exchange for them abandoning quote-unquote pagan ways and converting to Christianity. So many cultures across the ancient world have stories like this where Christian missionaries would pervert their ancient stories and cultures into things of the devil, things of evil. Witches, dragons, even the firebird phoenix are seen as evil in early Christian myths. But speaking of which, did you know that 2024 is the Chinese Year of the Dragon? It's true! Specifically, February 10th of 2024 starts the year of the Yang Wood Dragon. The Chinese zodiac symbolizes 12 creatures on a cyclical wheel: rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and finally pig. These signs are further broken down among 5 elements that represent yet another cycle of Chinese philosophy: wood, fire, earth, and metal, and water. These 5 elements follow a 10-year cycle that looks like this. As you can see, this also follows an alternating cycle of yin and yang. It's like a cycle within a cycle within yet another cycle. And just like the Celts, everything with dragons is cyclical. So, according to legend, the Chinese Jade Emperor held a race of 13 animals on his birthday to create the Chinese zodiac. The race symbolized the cycle of 12 years that it takes for the zodiac to make a complete turn. Notice the 13 animals. This is because in the story there's a cat and a rat who hated each other. One leg of the race called for the animals to swim across a river, but the rat and the cat were both horrible swimmers. Another animal in the race, the ox, agreed to help them across, but halfway there the rat pushed the cat into the water and got him disqualified from the race entirely. Because of this, the cat never forgave the rat, and they've been enemies ever since. And this is where astrological compatibility comes into play for this story. Dragons, for instance, are thought to get along best with people born on the year of the rat, the monkey, and the rooster, while they conflict with those born under the dog and the rabbit. And I know this is another level that also plays into how magic works in our world as well, but well, I haven't quite mastered it myself yet, so I'll let you know when I get it figured out. I'm still a long way off from getting my Bindi. I'm hoping one day one of these projects will reveal the missing information I still need to connect everything for myself. Oh, excuse me. So the rat came in first, ox was second, tiger came in third, followed by rabbit, and then the dragon. We're about halfway around the zodiac now, and so in honor of that, we've included our own dragon character for this occasion. This is Dragonus the Adept, known to our heroes simply as Dragonus. So the name Dragonus comes from Zoroastrianism, an Iranian religion and one of the world's oldest organized faiths. Zoroastrianism emphasizes a never-ending battle between good and evil, a contest between the god Ahura Mazda and the evil spirit known as Ahriman. In this way, the name points back to the cyclical nature of Celtic dragons and brings us into our own lore. In Tales of Atonement lore, dragons are either the children of Tiamat or followers of Bahamut. Although gods in their own right, according to Mesopotamian lore, we take from popular fantasy styles these two characters. Tiamat is a 5-headed dragon with each head representing a chromatic colors of dragons: red, green, blue, black, and white, whereas Bahamut is a platinum bipedal dragon god who teaches Tiamat's creations the ways of righteousness and can transform them to gold, silver, bronze, copper, and other metallic tones. In fact, metallic dragons are often called Bahamut's knights, or paladins, and are exhorted by the dragon god to think good thoughts, say good words, and do good deeds. Dragonus, being a green dragon, has not taken up Bahamut's teachings, and so remains a child of Tiamat. The green dragons, or forest dragons as their name suggests, make their lairs in deep forests like the ones found in ancient Caledonia. He stands roughly 9 feet at the shoulder with a 7-foot neck and a 5-foot head. His wingspan is large enough to lift his body, and he can fly comfortably at a speed of around 70 miles an hour. His true name, Dragonus, is inspired by Dovazul, and it means made himself lord, a name that tells other dragons he is a self-made beast in his own place of power. Dragonus, or Dragonus, is an adept at magic that lives in the forest surrounding the village and provides them with guardianship and good fortune. He serves as a teacher and a mentor for Madeline, who interprets his desires and uses them to help Alden prosper, just like the ancient druids. Design-wise, Dragonus is built on a plethora of green tones. Ever since I did those pictures of Edna, I have been really into using monochromatic color schemes. However, with the inclusion of the sort of brown, craggy horns on his head, they're meant to kind of resemble branches and help him blend in to the forest around him. While the sort of feathery spines down his back and another place of his body are meant to resemble sort of a mossy covering. When he lays down on the ground, he sort of just looks like a grassy mound to the untrained eye. And in that way he can conceal himself from unworthy humans who are not prepared to look upon his greatness. I love Dragonus as a character because he is quite flamboyantly full of himself, while also being a sort of magnanimous character to the trio. And these red eyes have shown up a couple of times, haven't they? We like putting in small details to hint at future things to come. You guys know I like my small details. Little things to make you look at the background and pay attention to everything. You never know what might be around every corner. Anyway, I'm just sort of waxing poetic here. Oh, I had so much fun with these scales. I painted each one down in the shine. I really tried to do it up. I do like to challenge myself from time to time just to see where my skill has evolved. A meeting with this dragon symbolizes the tonal shift, a call to action that starts our heroes down the path of their own enlightenment and atonement. Like, subscribe, and ring my bell. God, when's the last time I said that? But I do a new video every week at 3 p.m. Pacific. Meet me back here again at that same time to keep boosting us higher and higher into the YouTube's algorithm. Also, Patreon is the best way to support this channel. Not only are you supporting us, but then we turn around and change that money into great art, music, voiceovers, comics, maybe even merch, like shirts and hats or plushies one day. But you'll get access to the Tales of Atonement coloring pages, the manga of the comic book, and even the unpublished scripts, so you can read the story way ahead of time. Check the link if you want to look into that. Some of our great patrons include Shadow Fox, Arya Gamari, Charles Tam, Jace Moreland, and Lunder Lumen. Oh, one more thing before I sign out this time. I just want to say to everyone watching, 新年快乐! Happy New Year!